Today, you and I are going to walk through how to determine what is the best size for your raised garden beds, what you should consider, and I will show you some real scenarios here. A general rule of thumb is not to go wider than 4 feet wide because it is hard to reach into the middle once you get past that point. The garden grid irrigation system here is just under 1 foot per square. Side note here, the Garden in Minutes website, which is where I bought these garden grids, does not offer anything wider than 4 feet. So that backs up the 4-foot wide recommendation. Also, consider if your raised bed is along the side of a wall or somewhere where you can't get on the other side, the width should be smaller. Here in the summer, we have this shade structure, and we will be reaching across the full 3 feet without removing the shade cloth. This is going to be tough. A quick measure of how far you are willing to reach just with a tape measure in your arm is a good estimate for that scenario. There are smaller arms here, and many 2x4 and 2x6 pieces fell around 36 inches when we built this bed, so that's what we went with here. There is no shame in using a dimension based on what you already have in your scrap pile at home. As for height, you should also consider what's comfortable for you. Also consider other scenarios such as, is wheelchair access needed? If so, 2 feet is a standard height. If someone has issues bending over, 3 feet might be even better. As for a minimum, 8 to 12 inches will accommodate the root systems of most vegetables. 12 to 18 inches are also common raised garden bed heights. I'll be honest though, our height is based on having the sheets we had on hand, which were already not full sheets. What you see here is about 17 inches. Another thing to consider is if there's a certain kind of gardening technique you would like to try. That may dictate how deep the raised garden bed should be. What you are looking at here is my version of hugelkultur, where I place logs and branches from the trees and bushes around the yard here in the bottom of the bed, which requires deeper raised garden beds. You don't actually need raised garden beds for hugelkultur in the pure sense, but I want a flat surface on top for easier watering, so this is my hybrid version. Lengthwise, there really isn't a limit. However, you should probably consider which plants grow well together and which do not. That way you can plan on separate beds for plants that do not. For instance, I did not know that dill should not be planted next to carrots. I had already planted little finger carrots in every bed, so we did not plant dill. Lesson learned, you should probably know what grows well together first and then have a game plan for what it is that you want to plant. Bonus tips. Find an active gardener in your area because they will give you the best advice, especially when you're starting out. If you are in the low desert of Arizona, check out Angela's blog, Growing in the Garden. The information she shares on each plant has been extremely helpful. Second, read the back of the packets of seeds. Thank you, Lake Valley Organics, for adding this information to the back of your packets. As for spacing between beds, 2 feet is a standard number, but you should also consider what kind of access you might want to have. Again, wheelchairs, access for ladders, trellises, and other considerations along those lines. ADA compliant doors are 36 inches wide, so putting a 3-foot path in between your raised beds is worth considering. This also brings up what future plans you might have. Do you need sunshade, frost protection, or anything else where if you limit yourself to a certain size, then the shade cloth, let's say, is easier to find in a certain dimension. I intentionally built 2 36-inch wide raised beds with 2 feet in between. What I didn't account for was that the irrigation system should be 36.5-inch wide, really just round up to 37 inches. And of course, that does not account for the walls of the raised bed structure. So the width is just over 8 feet. Cha-ching on lumber that is longer than 8 feet. However, we were able to use 8-foot beams in the opposite direction. What you are looking at here is full coverage across the sides and top with a 7-foot high box. This structure is covered by an 8 by 20 foot shade cloth. In the back here, there is a 6 by 8 foot shade cloth, which was harder to find than I expected. These are some of the little gotchas that add up, making each subsequent step more complicated. A little bit of homework right now where you plan out these extra pieces to protect your garden will make it a lot easier to install and potentially cheaper if you make your raised beds fit within those constraints. I put links to all of the websites and products in the description for you to easily check out for yourself. I hope that these tips help you build the best size raised beds for your needs. Please add any missing tips in the comments below for other people looking for this kind of information. Then check out this video next if you are looking to build a raised bed similar to this style. Thanks for watching.